If you've been trying to spend less time on social media, if you deleted Instagram and then got back on it 2 days later, if you find it hard to focus on tasks such as whatever is in front of you, your work, your reading a book that you're enjoying, if you find yourself picking up a phone 100 times a day, chances are that you need to take a break from social media. Today I'm going to give you a very simple protocol. It may not be easy, but to me it's so worth it. And the reason I know about this topic is because I spent 10 years in marketing, so I know the insights of how these companies make platforms addictive and use psychology to trigger you to stay in the platform for as long as possible so that they can get their advertisers' money. And I've also personally struggled with anxiety, and I know how platforms such as TikTok and Instagram could be so detrimental to our mental health. I have found that whenever I am feeling anxious, depressed, I tend to go more on Instagram. I tend to passively consume content more and spiral mentally as well. So taking a distance, actually deleting these platforms and retraining my attention span has been so helpful in my life, and I'd like for you to experience that as well. So first of all, why would you want to quit social media? All the well-being benefits aside, if you think of social media like an addiction, like smoking, if the warning about its repercussions was actually effective, then those scary images we see on the cigarette packs would actually make people quit. But we know that that's not the case. My take on this is this. I believe that we're here to do our life's work. I believe that we have a purpose and that we came here to make an impact that ideally lasts after we're gone. So we can't do that if every single day we outsource our attention to cheap dopamine, if we give these companies power over our time, our agency, we let them dictate to us how we should look, what we should buy, we constantly compare ourselves to other people and their perfectly curated lives. So my goal is to help you wake up to the reality of what social media is doing to your brain and to your life so that you can live a more joyful and intentional life. Let's talk about why is it so hard to quit. If you've ever tried to delete the apps and then found yourself going back a couple hours, a couple days later, if you sense that you gravitate towards grabbing your phone and scrolling every time you feel something uncomfortable, there's 3 reasons here. And first of all is that you may be avoiding what you're feeling deep down. This compulsion to take a phone and basically shut our brain and our emotions off is a way that sometimes we try not to face the inner discomfort, the discontent, the rage, the anger, which is very socially inappropriate emotion we tend to avoid and suppress. The disappointment, sadness, loneliness is a big one. All of these emotions are uncomfortable. And if we face them, if we sit with them, we may need to have to address the reason that they appear in the first place. So it is easier to just grab your phone. But is it actually helping you? In the long term, the emotions aren't going anywhere. Reason number 2 is that with every single update, these apps are getting more addictive. They have, mind you, massive budgets, some talented people working for them in R&D, so that every time the platform introduces a new feature, its core goal is to keep you on the platform as long as possible. Companies like Meta make money from advertisers, so features such as infinite scroll or autoplay on TikTok now has been officially banned by the EU. This is news just from a couple of days ago because they've been found to be addictive. Let us sit with this. Let's just bring in a bit more mindfulness in the way that we consume the things that are given to us without questioning them. It is important to take into account your willpower, but it's also important to understand that the conditions in which we live today make it very difficult for us to abstain from social media. You may feel a fear of missing out. You may feel like everybody's living this life, and if you're not on social media, you don't know what your friends are up to. You feel like you're even more isolated. In the loneliness pandemic that we live in right now and have been for years now, our addiction to social media makes a lot of sense. But again, I think in 2026, we are to wake up to this autopilot lifestyle and these autopilot habits that we've gotten so accustomed to. Our goal as a society is to bring more awareness, to bring more consciousness into our life and life's choices. And social media and your phone usage could be the first step that helps you to take back more control over your life, take back more agency, to get more energy and space to actually create something. Remember, you cannot create and consume at the same time. If you are passively consuming, you're not creating. If you take a break from comparing yourself to others, all that energy could be redirected into a new professional or creative outlet. And this is how we build a legacy for ourselves. So let's go back to the 3 reasons why it may be hard for you to actually quit social media. Number 1 was that you may be feeling some intense emotions right now, and social media is an easy way, although not always conscious way, to not face them, to not have to sit with them. Later in the protocol, I'll give you some ideas on what you can do with this. Number 2 was that the apps like Meta are making these platforms more addictive every time. And the way we address that is by becoming more conscious and aware in our consumption habits and creating a certain digital hygiene around the usage of social media. I'd also like to add that I don't treat YouTube as a social platform because it doesn't have all of the same addictive principles. And I find that if you use YouTube, let's say only on desktop, and you actually focus on consuming content that benefits you in a certain way, on educating yourself, on progressing in all of the areas in which you'd like to grow, YouTube is an excellent platform to find teachers and leaders and creators who share their wisdom and their experience with you for free. So that's the reason why I love YouTube, and I don't consider it a social media per se. And the reason number 3 is that consuming content on, let's say, Instagram or TikTok is a way to feel like we're living an eventful life. If you've ever set out goals for yourself that you didn't achieve and you told yourself, well, I just didn't have time, or whatever, that goal is no longer relevant, that's also a way of how we trick ourselves and how we lie to ourselves and how we avoid responsibility, because the cheap dopamine and the idea that by consuming content, our brain already thinks that we're doing something is actually messing with our own plans and with our own progress and evolution as humans. So again, going back to the idea of we're here to do something more, to have an impact that lasts after we're gone. I strongly believe that addiction to our phone, and social media is just one of the most addictive apps we have on our phone. It's not going to be a weather app or a calculator. That is actually preventing us from expressing ourselves to our fullest potential and capacity in this life. Next, I'd like to touch on what does it do to our physical bodies. Constant consumption of triggering content, especially short-form content, which is manufactured in a way to literally trigger you from the first seconds on, so you keep watching until the end. That is creating an elevated level of cortisol, hence stress in your body. Chronic stress is one of the diseases of our age. It results in so many health issues. And if you are already naturally an anxious person, and with everything going on in the world right now, that by itself is already a trigger. But when you're exposing yourself to sensitive content, you're never giving your nervous system a break to reset to the baseline. chronic levels of stress, in addition to a reduced attention span. So the reason why it's so difficult to focus on just watching a nice movie or reading a book or even working without constantly being distracted by notifications and the compulsion to grab your phone, that also leads to this cognitive overload. If our brains are a smart computer system, then cognitive overload is having 20, 30 tabs open simultaneously, all refreshing in the background, which means that it's so much harder for us to put all of the focus on one single task in front of us. The result is, the way I see it, is that social media and phone addiction is making us overstimulated and undernourished. Now I'm going to give you a simple 4-step protocol on what you can do if your goal is to have more freedom from social apps, from your phone, to have more energy, more space to create something beautiful, to finally figure out what is it that you'd like to do in this world and go all in. And the 4 steps is, number 1 is to reduce overstimulation. It's an obvious one. There is no way around it. You need to get distance from the apps that are the most addictive to you personally. For me, this was Instagram. I have tried setting the time limits on the app itself when it would let me know once I've spent an hour on Instagram. Spoiler alert, it didn't work. I would actually learn to ignore those notifications altogether, to postpone them. So that didn't work for me. It may work for you, but I suggested you find a way to create digital hygiene around the most addictive apps. For instance, there is applications such as Freedom and Dump Phone, which either lock the apps that you select so you cannot access them in certain amounts of time of the day, so that you don't feel like you're off them completely if that is triggering a FOMO in you, but that you can focus at least during the most productive hours of your day on the tasks in front of you, on your projects, on your more productive endeavors. The app Dump Phone, for instance, is just a very basic black and white screen with a few apps that you've pre-selected that are there for emergency purposes or whatever it is that you use your phone for other than scrolling, and essentially reduce the stimulation from both the design of the phone, from all the colorful apps, all the interactive elements, which again are there to make us want to spend more time on the phone. Another good one is to lock your phone. It's not actually something I've personally tried, but I've seen people do this with success, is that they buy some of these boxes for their personal devices where they're able to lock their phone during certain hours and they cannot access this. But locking your phone is like an upgrade from that. It's a step number 2. What I also like to do is to try and leave my phone at home if I go for a walk. At first, this is very hard to do, trust me. You will feel like, oh, but I need my phone. I need to pay for a coffee, or I need my transport ticket. I need to, whatever. Your brain will find excuses as to why not to do it. But if you're able to leave your phone even for half an hour to an hour and go for a walk and just not expose yourself to any additional stimulation other than the noise of the cars and people on the street and the wind, the birds, the conversations around you, that in itself is a stimulation, but it gives your brain a break from being constantly on, and you will just find that this is a free and simple way to regulate your nervous system back to that baseline. Another good one is to try and leave your phone outside of the bedroom. So the times of the day when we're most sensitive to that kind of stimulation, to consuming the news, is right when we wake up and before we go to bed. If you leave your phone charging outside of your bedroom, use a simple analog alarm if you have to. If you spend that time on something more pleasant, calming, and or productive, or whatever it is that is not your phone, you will be able to progress in life so much faster. This is what would make you different from 99% of the world who aren't being intentional about their phone consumption habits. So that's number 1. reducing overstimulation. Step number 2 would be to take it one level higher in terms of mindfulness. So we cannot reduce compulsive habits unless we bring in the element of mindfulness. And that means practicing, noticing what are you feeling in the moment when you want to grab your phone, when you want to go on social media. I would suggest journaling at this stage. It's very helpful to notice patterns. It doesn't have to be extensive journaling, just a few words of, I've been feeling this, or I'm feeling overwhelmed, I'm feeling anxious, I'm feeling uncertain, I'm feeling bored. Even if you were to just notice those things for a week, and at the end of the week, look at your notes, you may find certain patterns there. And then you can address them. Then you can start asking yourself, why am I feeling bored? What else am I avoiding feeling? What can I do about feeling lonely? Can I reach out to people in my life? Can I reconnect with some of the friends that I've left behind? Whatever it is, you are able to address it once you bring a light of awareness into it. This is meditation. If you've never meditated, it's an excellent way to build awareness in your life. It could be a simple body scan meditation. It could be just sitting in silence and observing what kind of thoughts are crossing your mind. It's not about creating a blank state in your brain all of a sudden. That creates a lot of pressure for people who don't have a consistent meditation practice. I think I'll make another video on meditation as well, but for now, just find a practice that makes you more awake in your life. Find a way to train your brain to snap out of autopilot. Autopilot is everything we do without questioning. Autopilot is helpful for things like brushing your teeth and washing dishes. You don't need to consciously think about doing those things. But it is important that we snap out of it if we want to have more agency and control over our life, if we want to feel like we're progressing towards the goals that are actually meaningful to us. Unless living like that is on autopilot for you, which for most of us it's not, it's a skill that we need to train. Also, reading books retrains your awareness and attention in a magnificent way. You need to find literature that you find enjoyable, whether that's nonfiction or fiction for you. But if you're able to concentrate on a book for 30 minutes, 40, 45, an hour, that retrains your ability to focus on anything else. So number 1 was to reduce overstimulation and exposure. Number 2 was to create more awareness and mindfulness. And number 3 is to retrain your attention span with practices like reading books or meditating. Meditation actually addresses both the awareness, which you're bringing from the outside to the inside, and your attention span. Also, you may find that once you take time away from these platforms, now all of a sudden you have all this free time. Just think about the fact that an average smartphone user spends up to 5 hours a day on their phone now. If you reduce that even to 1 to 2 hours a day for essential tasks, if you take the doom scrolling away from it, you now all of a sudden have all that free time that you may not know what to do with at first. So I really encourage you to face boredom, to be okay with it, to almost go through this initial discomfort. And that leads us naturally to step number 4 is I suggest you find a project or a creative outlet where you can redirect all the newly found attention and energy into. Find a project that requires you to pursue greatness, that requires you to stretch beyond what is comfortable, and then see how that retrains your system to seek meaningful challenges instead of cheap, fast satisfaction. I sincerely hope this video was helpful to you, that you take this protocol and try to apply it in your life. The core idea that I wanted to transmit today is that social media is making us more stressed, more passive, more dumb, less creative, less original, and that by bringing a light of awareness and building hygiene protocols around its use may actually be one of the best ways to improve the quality of our lives. Quitting it, like an addiction, gives your nervous system a chance to reset to a baseline, gives you mental clarity, new fresh ideas, and an energy to pursue them. I hope you found this video useful. If you've tried a technique that helps you successfully get off social media, share it in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next one.